Good afternoon, Abbotsford residents. I'm Mr. Pelican. I'm running for the mayor of Abbotsford. I'm on the world's largest stage to bring light to an organization of a criminal ring that I believe, with Abbotsford residents, is one of the largest ones in Canada's history. It was set up through elites, politicians, and how they got hold and could do it was through a private community police department that they called the Shots and could clean the Abbotsford Police. When Mayor Henry Braun's son, the proving officer, opened his mouth and told the story why decisions and council were beating the community and job sites in insider trading, and how Henry could cover his attempted murder, how his uncle was on the police board, and everybody involved. They considered themselves as politicians, mayors, and council, but they were an elite ring of people that were feeding off the financial gain of it. They didn't even take into consideration of their oath and what they were doing. They were that involved with and braved with what they were doing. When Henry Braun was rigging decisions and damaged homes, instead of mayor and council calling them out and dealing with the homeowners, they took Henry's side and figured nobody, and they started blocking, sending a spark to municipalities everywhere and other mayors. It was my great ties that I know politicians, big developers, and everybody. I could bring them in the town and rip the Abbotsford men and women that said, we have to be protected. We're investigators. We know where the drugs are, and their company could advertise for them that they were these great people. And when you look through them, they were just pieces of shit of what they were doing. There was no oversight. They lost control of what the body of law was and what their scope was. They were in control of it all, and they were threatening. They were brutalizing the town, from racing the Dodge Chargers, inflating their time cards, picking up prostitutes, beating the young youth, and everything. But the police were supposed to be held accountable under the city and in the auditorium. Henry figured he'd block open mic, and he did it. And it got out of hand that even Henry Braun, when he basically was trying to tell him to stop, it was getting him caught. He couldn't control it no more. It was too far out. When it's this far out of reach, you need annihilation, and you need the RCMP. And that's what you need. When I took that information to the Mission RCMP, a few men and women, they pissed all over the Abbotsford Police, knowing that there was politicians in behind it. They put the test to the work, and they tested what Mike DeYoung would do and what Ed Fast would do for Henry Braun, and they also tested what Mike Sir would do for Keelan Olenoff and the attempted murder. Then Colin Watson figured he'd come in here for the company and he'd clean it for his guys. The mental retardedness of this all is that they believe that they should stay here because their jobs are in trouble now. They can't. And why I have to argue it as a politician going down this road, I showed you, thanks to the RCMP, how they tried to attack me, tried to lie, tried to frame me, tried to do everything. They could be sitting at their table and somebody come in and retaliate, and their wives don't know what they did on shift. And this is what they were doing behind the doors, behind that. You're dealing with people that are not going to let their wives be raped or molested, and they're going to come after these guys even when they're off duty. And we didn't have that. We had a bunch of shit from the police board that Henry pointed to its Safety Standards Act, look at the company, and they could clean it this way. And then they were going to come out with, we were going to have an investigation from one of my friends and stall it and everything. This was too big. It's too far. And we need a total overhaul of it, and we can't keep them. They have proven that they can't stay, and I do not want to see them transferred into Surrey because they offer nothing but to set up their organization when they weren't calling each other up. Now, I want to make this statement as a politician, as an Abbotsford resident, and here as many other people in Abbotsford. I cannot find a one-woman police officer doing this shit. Not a one. They don't threaten me. They see me on the podcast shooting a developer site. They know that guy was caught stealing. He's going to be lit up on YouTube. They always give me my space. They say hi. They're this. They're well-rounded, and these women are very good. And I'm going to give them some advice to stay away from them filthy men. The man will now see that you're being blessed and called really good, and you're doing a job really good, and they're going to start hanging with you. Colin Watts needs to shift down and get all the men off the day shift, and as many as he can, and maybe we'll have an all-women police force and no more men. The men are just absolutely disgusting. They attack a mogul. I want to show you something, and I want to tell you what it is about. This is the BC Federal Conservative shirt, Pierre Poilievre's, and I won't put it on, and it was given to me by the head of the EDA of Sooke Mangels to James Barlow. He said, "You deserve this." And he gave me this shirt. And knowing that the EDA that sits on Sooke Mangels and was Ed's witnessed these attacks on my life. And I told Sir James Barlow why I won't put that shirt on is because Brad Viss ain't an MP for Pierre Poilievre. He's Henry's bitch. And he was lobbying the infrastructure money. What MP looks away from an attempted murder, and Brad Viss never once came up to them homes that Henry knocked off the mountain. He never once and looked at Dave Sidhu's property for the insider trading. He lives in a mission, he's an MP in mission, and Ross is dumping of the soil in there and everything. He never went and looked at Ron Funks or nothing, and he knows it all, because he was never an MP for this country. He was an MP for Henry to manipulate through Ed Fast, to go get money, and you could see him, they shove him down the toilet, and he's completely broken. And you could see the distance by the BC Conservatives, Bruce Banman, Rianne, and all them staying away from him. And now he tries to lean on Sooke, and he should have never allowed Sooke to be damaged, Sooke Mangel, of what Henry and them did. He's loyal to Ed, he's loyal to the Liberals, and that is why he went with Ian Black, and he goes to all these establishment parties knowing what they did. As an MP, your first obligation is to them homes, and the second obligation is you have the EDA, which is the Riding Association of the Federal Conservatives. Homes involved in it and that. And Brad Viss figured he's going to outweigh this EDA. And I told Sir James Barlow, there'll come a time when I put this shirt back on, but right now it's not going to be bare, I'm not going to wear it. And this is why. Today I'm in front of the Abbotsford Police. And what are I doing here? I want you to look 10 feet in front of me right there. That black bag. That black bag is what you're carried away from when you're dead in the street. By gangs, by a vicious act, by rage, by a party in the nightclubs, by a hit and run, you're carried away in it. Henry Brown left the city of Abbotsford in his Lexus car and used his friends on the Abbotsford Police. The law was taking a back seat, and knew that they wouldn't charge him, they were that powerful and that great, and knew that the shithole company and these men would be promoted till the politicians got involved. You're dealing with politicians, and these retards still think we're going to go out and attack Mr. Pelican and everything. John Arastad and all these people at my house, and these retards figuring, look at the big police badge. They're engraved the same as power when Hitler rose to power with the SS, and this is what we had. We had no oversight. The RCMP mission did not look away, knowing that I could retaliate with Abbotsford because it's your life now. They knew that the Abbotsford Police now were trying to frame me and pressure me out of town, how much they were doing for Henry and how far they were taking this stupid game. Lying about the bar saw me drinking, lying that the casino said that I was totally drunk in Abbotsford when I went to a political party there that's held in the back rooms. And they kept this up, and then the task force at my house. It was to run me out of town, and the RCMP were just worried, how much can you take? Why are they threatening you? And I said, because of the developments. And this company set it all up. Now the question I have is David Eby laundering the money out of BC taxpayers because he's not asked for the $71 million that Jake's contract stole? And he's not asked, let me tell you how that was done. It's the same as the Abbotsford sergeant going home and filling in his time card. In my opinion, they're already doing it. They increased it all. This wasn't a police force about this town no more. And they weren't willing to take criticism, but go in there and tag up, slap each other on the ass, and come out and beat somebody, and we got their license plate and database. And they didn't even see the endangerment they're putting their own family in, and then put out there that they can't be trusted, and we don't even know if they're dying in the line of duty or nothing. And they kept going with this stupid company. When Darren Brown showed me that Henry was not building the police building for the town and getting new guys or bringing guys and training them, it was about the job. And lifting that to Unitech for $70 or $80 million, cost overruns when you could have wrecked no fit it. Henry knew through his friends at the top of the Abbotsford Police that he's going to go, and the Mr. Millionaire don't want to go to jail for attempted murder, insider trading and everything. The prime example is you could see this great man, nobody takes a picture with Henry Brown. Nobody is, because they distance to him because they're truth. None of their wives come out and say it was false or my husband's good, not even Ross Siemens. This just didn't get about money. It got into organized crime. It got into threats. It got into a task force going to frame somebody and lie and cheat. When you look at this scale, these son of a bitches have done it through this whole town, and that is why we're not getting crime under control, because it's their friends. Oh, I can't charge my sister's kid. Oh no, he just dealed fentanyl, I can't charge him. And they were buddy pals, slapping each other on the ass, and they didn't even have enough to say, look it, the sergeant did it, I'm gonna call him out, and put him in check and call him out so he could go under investigation, because that's how much they were into each other and they were buddy pals. That there, right there, that body bag, is what I would have been carried away in if it wasn't for luck. If the trailer and the truck wasn't there and I didn't fall between, I would have been dead. Now let me tell you what my family, Abbotsford residents, other police forces would have to endure. These lying, filthy, disgusting men would stand out there in lineups as sergeants, as staff sergeants, as the homicide investigators, and assure my family that this was gang related, and they're working with IHIT and other detachments to find who ran Mr. Pelican over and tried to kill him. Never mind leaving me for dead and fleeing from the scene of the accident, Henry Brown, with all the eyewitnesses, and then me going to the hospital. So I carry that thought every day. And that is why I know when they die on the street, I go, that's all bullshit. None of them died deservingly. They're bloody bullshit. And somebody retaliated. The RCMP mission, some of the great men were worried about my retaliation. And that if you did it, Mr. Pelican, and you didn't do it this way with Abbotsford residents, shit like that gets away with it. And shit like that has to be that they can never be transferred or trusted, because this one you don't look away from. And then through all my injuries, I said my 18-year-old son run my job site. I could barely move around, the painkillers and everything. The Abbotsford men and women just didn't stop there with their shit. They just didn't stop there. This junk, this freaking garbage, this trash that suits up and tells you about gangs and fentanyl, started stalking me and threatening me because Henry needed me out of town. Why? Henry Brown went in the city with his money and his wealth, with his rich friends, that's insider trading and politicians, that would scandal the federal Conservatives and scandal the BC Liberals. Pierre Poilievre tried to distance himself, and so did Brad Viss, rather than do what was right for this town and victims. And they had their money all involved in it. But Henry Brown screwed up when he told his son the whole plan. And this is why I knew when he attacked Eric Nivel, when he went with the task force after Mogel, when he could use and rig the Chamber of Commerce through Greg Toes, who tried to bribe me, use Vicky Hopes through the newspaper, and then use all these avenues. It was the RCMP, a mission. Said, Mr. Pelican, we want you to run for mayor. And we want you to run so Henry has to flush out all the institution that he pays off, and he does. But legitimately, your law enforcement should be there for all victims, no matter what your beef is on the political ring, what you call them day or night, or what you do in this town, as long as you're a law-abiding citizen. This fucking crap, this junk, this shit, went and did this, and then it figured that it had enough people. These were my people. We were big enough to intimidate. And I went to the best in the best there is, the world stage, to show every one of them, their wives and everything. As a leading investigating officer, they know their part to take criminal reports and cameras, and there was more than enough there. They knew when I was at the Augustine billionaire in White Rock, and they smashed my cameras and made false accusations to frame. The Safety Standards Act, the slobs that when you walk in the front door are all slobs. The badge protects me. oh, the badge, and they propped themselves up in this myth. They knew to go to the White Rock Billionaire, take the report, replace my camera because it's violence now, it's private property, apologize. They didn't. They were that far into it, them dirty, filthy officers. They knew when Olenoff was at Henry's house and lied there was break-ins, millions of dollars in the safe, that Henry, in my opinion, was paying people off. But no Canadian should carry the thought in their mind of that's where they should be by pure luck. Pure luck changed that black bag wasn't zippered up and I was dragged off. And a lying, filthy, conniving garbage, they got lawyers, they got SAV sergeants, stand out there and lie to the general public because this wasn't a police force, this was on money. Henry's insider trading, and it had big politicians, and they couldn't put themselves away from it. When I went over to the Mission RCMP and Surrey RCMP, they knew exactly what needed to be done. They knew criminal reports weren't being done. They knew the witnesses were being pressurely blocked. They knew the Abbotsford men and women were using their database and their stuff to follow me and threaten me. They knew why they were on me because of the job sites and everything. We cannot, as a community and as a country, feel sorry for them when they're dead on the street, because this needed to come to an end right out the get-go. You don't look away from that one. No one does. And they weren't willing to have the law do their job. They were friends. They were all kissing each other's ass, and you could see it. That Colin Watts constantly, he knew what Mike Sir did, and he figured I'm going to let Mike Sir have a pass and go because he's one of mine. He'll pull the whole company down. And he knew, and then he couldn't get these guys under control. And all day long, he's kissing ass from Suk Mangill to Brad Vist to everywhere. And he's supposed to be a police chief for this town. And he wasn't. And then he goes in and he goes, probably on Monday morning, and why did you embarrass me? Hundreds of billions of dollars were set up by a mob to steal it. These men stand on the world stage to tell you about gangs and fentanyl and didn't have a look into their own shit, what they were doing. They used this company. And let me tell you, as much as I say there was good officers, Dix and Kern, that knew that they were doing it and criminal reports should have been done and they were held out. They knew what Vicky Hopes was doing. They knew what Greg Toes was doing, blocking. They were all had a part because you all have a part to play in it. Now we have to, as a society, and as me as your mayor, and as residents, send a message, not dismissal. Dismissal is the wrong way, and allowing like people like Peter Sperry's. We have to send a message to the top investigators that your ass is going to be dragged before our courts, and the jury sees all the evidence, and the RCMP, and you're jailed. And your wives can come out and say, you know, my husband, I went and saw him in the maximum security jail. He's been raped, his ribs are busted, his teeth are smashed in, and everything. We do not decorate assholes like this, not when it comes to this level. We don't praise assholes like this. We don't say that they're law enforcement. We put a distance between great law enforcement, the Mission men and women in the RCMP. Always cared about my health, always there for me, and always was helping Abbotsford. And they knew that by mistake, by just pure mistake, that Abbotsford bounced onto one of the largest organized crime rings, and they got caught in it. And this is how, when the RCMP go to serve a summons on somebody because they didn't pay child support, find a big fentanyl lab by mistake. But these weren't police forces. This wasn't police force. This is complete fucking trash to do this. And no human being in this country should look at a body bag and realize how lucky you are every single day. And then, not only that, as a victim, realize that these ain't gangs or people that you owe money to chasing you and threatening you and trying to frame you and yank you from the car. It's your own fucking police force, pardon my language, your own garbage shit. And I owe my town for helping me. I owe a lot of political people and people that came into this town and helped, and I made it clear from my very good friend John Rastad, and I owe a lot of them. And this is why you cannot see the former mayor, Bruce Bamman, standing here or saying anything about Henry. We need the law to deal with it. And the law must deal with it. And I guarantee you, chicken shit that sat upstairs and called their investigators As a community, we have to go through it and say, you knew that scope of the work, no matter who told you not to investigate it. You're out of here, and now what we're going to. We've seen this police department, and Henry knew it was dirty when the 9 got caught and the other ones got caught. So it was a foregone conclusion you could walk into the shit and take it over. It had no management. But I want to end today's story by telling you this. There is great people in this town, and we saw what Barty Sandhu did. We saw what Rianne Gasper and many dignitaries have done for me and for this town. And we saw what the RCMP have done, because it's still crime no matter what. They tried to convince others. This was a multi-trillion-dollar plan to steal the city's money and block candidates and everything for going. Henry Brown was a mastermind, and he set it up with his elite friends, Ed Fast and Mike DeYoung. And to think as a society and as residents that these shithole people don't deserve jail is why we look, and we have to look at the news and say, last night 5 Abbotsford police were shot. We're going to think as a community and as a mayor, I don't know if they were shot. Somebody retaliated because they were framing. We got to take that out of the equation. And this is why the RCMP were so great at helping me. They said, the doors are open, Mr. Pelican. We want you to call all that out. They gave me the avenues. They knew when I was podcasting as a politician, this ain't about being a YouTuber or about the mayors. They knew that black bag that you're zipped up is front and center in my mind every day. And this shit that ran around town calling itself police was nothing but crap. Now that's not even half what I'm going to do to this town, because I don't want to see them in my stores. I don't want to see them in my schools. I don't want to see them in any areas. And I want their wives and families to look at them when they come home and say, what's coming through the door? What the hell did you do now? They did this for money, and they did it for friendship. This was a friendship police force. It had nothing to do with the law. They don't know anything about the law. They're just a bunch of crap that can run in the door and manipulate. And I want to end today by telling you, if you look what Colin Watts is doing with Amric Moran and all the cheating, Mr. Billionaires can't stop with the establishment holding it, and they're going to go to any terms because they figure if we get in, we can control it again. Abbotsford needs the RCMP, and I'm on the largest stage to show the RCMP, to show politicians around the world, to show these men's wives, to show my neighbors, and to show everybody. There's great people in Abbotsford, and them great people stood up against that shithole, rotten, conniving, scamming crap that called themselves task force officers. And when this comes, you're all got to be let go. There's no I didn't do it, he didn't do it. You had an obligation to stand forward and call it out so investigation from the RCMP could take its proper course and clear the company, and they didn't do it. The bros are all hiding now if you drive around Walmart. I'm live Abbotsford here at the Abbotsford City grounds, and this here is every day in my mind. That black bag, you could be zipped up. And I could listen to, just hear the garbage that the chief and his filthy investigators and his scam and his crap with IHIT is telling my family that it was gang related. Oh, we got it, it was gang related. This is going to end, and it's going to end because politicians are involved. I'm live, Abbotsford, British Columbia, Abbotsford Police.